All right, we're live. So everybody in the chat, let us know if the audio is good. Big Pod may have been chatting for a couple of minutes, so we know we can hear each other. Hopefully YouTube can hear us. So, how you doing this evening, Big Pod?
I'm quite fine, even though it's like 1 in the morning for me.
Yeah. I almost didn't do a chat today, and anybody that wants to join, feel free to join. I probably will cut this kind of short this evening. Normally I like to do about a 2-hour chat. We may only go an hour today. I've actually been at work all day. I went to work at 10 a.m., got off around 6:30, and I told you guys I would chat with y'all at 7. It's 7 now. I mean, I drove straight home. I have no idea. People in the chat were asking me about IBM buying Red Hat. I didn't know that went on today because, like I said, I've been gone all day. So my options today were not have a chat at all or do like an abbreviated, short chat really early this morning, like 7 a.m., 8 a.m. I didn't think that was a great option. Or do like an hour-long chat in the evening, around 7 or 8. I thought that was a little better option. Of course, depending on where you're at in the world. So.
Yeah.
But it was unusual how I had to work today on a Sunday. I mean, it was pretty much all day, and it was right in the middle of the day. So it kind of ruined our normal schedule. So.
Oh. ADT, one question.
Yeah, ruined.
In America, do you have daylight saving?
We do, yeah.
In Europe here we have right now the European Commission, but they don't really care for politics, decided that we should change and not have daylight saving.
And that's probably going to be what eventually happens in most of the U.S. anyway. Some U.S. states have already decided not to do daylight savings. We have one state, Arizona, that doesn't follow daylight savings time. I know they don't. So already you got one state that's not going to change when the rest of them do. They're just going to keep the same time. So.
Yeah, and I personally really don't care for daylight saving. But the problem is right now we have a big discussion at what time we should stop the daylight saving, because we will currently, the current planning is my country will stop at the next change when it's on summer days.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be, I don't know, I don't really care. My phone and computer do it whatever they need to do, and that's it. I just don't care. And now we have a big discussion what time is right to stop daylight saving, and some say it's winter, some summer, and we have a big problem. I even am debating it with my parents.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's going to be anything people really fight over. I mean, when to stop daylight savings time. If you know you're going to stop it, I guess the decision is, you're right. I mean, what hour of the day? I mean, do you do it when you've already switched over, or you do it when you already fall back? I guess that's the argument.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
But personally for me, I don't even know when daylight saving is.
Here in the U.S., we do it in the spring, usually in April, I think, and then in the fall. We actually have it coming up in the next, I think, either next weekend or the weekend after that. So in 2 weeks, we'll fall back an hour. So it's coming up, actually.
Here we had it like, I believe, today or yesterday, but I didn't know. I only found out because of the argument we had.
Yeah, and I do know that Europe does it a couple of weeks early, because my car is a Mercedes, and the time changes in it. As a matter of fact, it already changed. So I noticed that the clock in my car is wrong. Well, it's wrong for the next 2 weeks. In a couple of weeks, it'll be right, because then we'll change. But
wow, nice car you drive.
It's a 2006 Mercedes. It's not like the latest model, but it's not a bad car. It's a pretty nice car. I bought it used. I think I paid about $8,000 or $9,000 when I bought it about 5 years ago. It's a C230. kind of an economy model. It's not like one of the nicer Mercedes, but it is a great car. I've been really happy with it. Have
I
absolutely.
personally drive more Renault cars, French stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, that one reason why I drive that kind of car, a Renault, is because one of the factories is like close by to me, 6 kilometers, and a lot of people work there with Renault. So I trust it a bit more.
Yeah. I normally don't drive nice vehicles myself, and I always buy used. This is definitely the nicest car I've had because usually I'm rough on vehicles, so I usually buy really old beaters, for a few $100. Something, if you get a year or two out of it, great, and then just move on to something else.
Hell, even if you trash it, who cares? It was $300.
Well, it's hard to pay new car prices when you know what a bad investment financially that is, because as soon as you drive it off the lot, it's already depreciated like 20% in value.
Here we say once you drove it out of the dealership, it's already half price.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's very true. And financial planners and financial experts will tell you, like, the worst thing you can do with your money is put it into anything that has a motor. Cars, boats, motorcycle. That is not a good place to have your money tied up, because the price of that stuff is only going down as far as the value.
I understand people who live in their car basically because they drive it so much. And cars and buying cars because they use it all the time and probably they will be only owner of it. But I don't understand those people who just buy it for style.
Just quickly, I'm going to catch up a little bit here in the YouTube chat. Milad asked, can I please make a video about how to install minimal Ubuntu 18.04 and the Unity desktop? The Unity desktop is still in the repos. I'm not exactly sure the name of the package, but it would be sudo apt install Unity desktop or whatever it is. I'm sure you could Google it. But installing Unity... now, when you say minimal Ubuntu, you're probably like doing Ubuntu server. Like, you don't want GNOME at all. You just want to like do the old Unity with no fallback GNOME or anything. That would be kind of complicated. I'm not sure how many people would want to do that and need a video for it. That's kind of an advanced thing to do. But if you just want Unity alongside GNOME, that's a simple terminal command away, and you've got the Unity desktop.
I like to joke that for those people, just watch any Arch tutorial and substitute Pacman for APT.
Yeah. Apt and Pacman and Yum and Zipper and DNF, they emerge. Well, not emerge. Emerge is a little different, but all those package managers function the same way. It's just the syntax, what you type is a little different.
Who maintains Unity now, by the way?
There are two different communities. There is a group that still maintains the Unity 7 desktop. Now, that's the one that actually still works on Ubuntu, and it's the one that was in 16.04 and 14.04. The good Unity that works. And there's also a group that maintains Unity 8, which was going to be Unity Touch, the phone Unity. There's a group that still maintains that, and actually there is still pretty active development on Unity Touch. I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do with it, but people are still maintaining that. The community has taken it upon themselves. And I think Canonical, actually, especially the Unity 8 guys, they kind of helped them out a little bit, setting up a website and getting all that stuff. So, but of course, Canonical is not behind it anymore. They're not putting any of their people behind it, since they're moving on to basically being all in with with the server. I mean, they make all their money with the server. It didn't make sense for so many of their people being tied up in desktop Linux when it just doesn't make any money. So,
and if I could make a wild speculation, probably some guys from Canonical in personal time still work on that Unity.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean they still put out, you know, like the Ubuntu LTSs and all that. I mean, there are people that use those in a business setting, you know, need enterprise support. I mean, they have to make sure that it's a well put together product. So that, I mean, they still focus on some desktop stuff, but it's not, you know, for a while Unity, especially Unity Touch with the phone, you know, they had so much time and money invested in that, and they saw no returns on it. So eventually they had to get away from that, especially if eventually Canonical wants to go public, you know, have an IPA and go public. Nobody is going to invest in a company that is throwing away millions and millions of dollars every year on, you know, departments within their company that don't make any money. So, so they had to, you know, you got to make sure the books look good before you go public, right? So.
Evening, gentlemen.
Hey, Ricky.
Evening.
Yeah. Of course, I think Shuttleworth has said that Canonical is not planning on going public, you know, like this year, but they would like to. I'm sure soon. That's what they're getting their company ready for, you know.
Yeah, it's a revenue stream, so why not?
Yeah. And now, yeah, I mean, nobody really knows, because it's a private company now. Nobody knows what Canonical is making, but you can bet they make a little bit of money, especially how popular they are these days with the cloud market. So I'm sure that
servers definitely they make quite a bit.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, where does Red Hat make all its money? Where does SUSE make all its money? You know. Canonical was trying to go a different way. Maybe they were trying to avoid the same market that everybody else was in. But then they realized, well, you know, there's enough room for us too. So
in current world, most of the desktop is worthless to companies. It's more or less the accompanying factor they have to do to actually succeed.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead, Christopher.
Yeah, what did people hear the news about Red Hat?
Yeah, that's what yeah, and I was actually somebody asked in the chat, you know, what I thought about that. If you guys didn't catch the very first part of the stream, I've been at work all day. I just got home, so I have no idea about the news. But yeah, I'm just quickly checking. It looks like IBM is buying Red Hat for $33 billion. So.
Yeah, it's pretty much the biggest acquisition that IBM has ever made in their history. I mean, this is huge.
It is big for IBM, yeah, because
it's probably a good investment for both sides.
Absolutely, absolutely, because I mean, IBM is, you know, good with Linux and open source. I mean, I can understand why they would be interested. Why it makes sense. This is much better. You know, I've warned you guys that Microsoft may eventually want to buy like one of the big three, you know, Red Hat, SUSE, Canonical. And I was just glad that the news wasn't Microsoft bought Red Hat.
I would say better IBM than Microsoft, because I've trusted IBM for years. They're a really good company. They're one of those companies that really don't focus on data collection. They focus on innovation and creativity, and we need more of those.
Yeah, IBM was really around before all the data mining. You know, that before.
I wouldn't really bet on that personally, because IBM is quite a data company.
Yeah.
Specifically when it comes to how to feed their Watson. You can't just feed him off the internet. They must be collecting some data.
Yeah. Well, I guess what Ricky and why I kind of agree with him is they're not mining data the way so many of these other companies have figured out, which is through really social media. It's, you know, social networking, email even. You know,
for social networking, I actually think let them mine. People are at fault for that, not the companies.
Yeah.
There are people at fault here. So,
well, I mean, if you're on the internet, I guess you have to be aware, you know, people are, nothing you say is private and that sort of thing. But you do have to have certain expectations of what's private when you're on things like Facebook or YouTube even. I mean, they do have personal information about all of us when you sign up for an account. I mean, you give them, you know, if they verify your age, you give them a birthday. I mean, they may know your real name, even if you don't use your real name on an account, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. At one point, yeah.
I see some people in here talking about OS2 in here.
Yeah. Also, somebody asked me personally, am I going to do anything with penetration testing on the channel? I'm not a penetration tester. I don't know anything about any of these hacking tools or anything. I mean, I'm not the kind of person to do that sort of thing. You want good Linuxy YouTube channels that focus on things like that. There is a Kali Linux channel that's good for that. Quids Up is great with security and privacy related discussions. Not sure if he does much penetration testing on his channel. But it wouldn't be something I would be comfortable doing. I don't think you guys would enjoy me discussing anything like that. I'm not into even that, what they call ethical hacking. No.
One point about IBM. I think the reason they don't do much data collection is because, simply put, they're not a consumer-facing company ever since they sold off their PC division. They're mostly enterprise services. So their business is really, they don't collect data. They sell the stuff to people who will collect the data.
Right.
But we can be sure that they don't listen to the stuff they sell. Anyone been keeping up with the story on Bloomberg about the Chinese chip embedded in servers?
At
that level, that story is complete bullshit. Personal opinion.
I haven't looked into it personally, but that story, it doesn't shock me that that's more of a like an attention headline grabber, clickbait.
Right. Reality is somewhere someone is collecting data like that, because in most cases you can basically do it undetected, because if anyone know what Heartbleed is, it was a bug, I believe in SSL, but I'm not sure. It's been a long time since I was doing stuff like that. So that was basically bleeding information, couple of bytes at a time. So if you could do that with such setup, you could easily steal some really stuff like that.
Let's see.
So
I got some strange feedback there. I think that was from Ricky when Ricky put his headset in.
Anyway, you can steal data. It's worth to someone,
right?
Especially in enterprise, where you can steal really important.
Yeah, I think most of the Linux community is going to not really be upset about IBM buying Red Hat. A lot of the Linux community kind of is harsh sometimes regarding companies like IBM and Red Hat and Oracle. You know, companies that focus a lot on Linux, make money on Linux. A lot of our community, the Linux community, is just kind of negative toward big corporations anyway. So, but I also think most of our community recognizes that, like those companies I just named, like these Linuxy kind of community, are companies like Red Hat and Canonical, SUSE, Oracle, they're not evil. You know, like I wouldn't put them in the same category as a company like Apple, which has done some really nasty things over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there are levels to these things.
You know, it's a lot different than Apple. Apple's
right
for themselves.
Of course, we're comparing apples and oranges too. I mean, as much money as Red Hat makes, you know, it's $1 billion company, but Apple's $1 trillion company. I mean, it's certainly different levels when you're talking about companies like Apple and Facebook and Microsoft. I mean, those companies have just gigantic amounts of money and have a lot of money, a lot of power, a lot of political influence.
So there's even a lot of influence in Linux.
Yes, actually, yeah, all three of those companies I just mentioned have some influence in Linux. Google, man, they really are a big influence. But they give back.
All those companies actually gave back something to Linux.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they do. I mean,
or open source community, let's say, because
Yeah.
as far as I know, if nothing else, Facebook gave something for MySQL to work faster, to
Right.
work a lot faster. They made it in house for their servers, their MySQL servers, and they then pushed it upstream after a while.
Yes. Yeah, I'm familiar with that story too, and it makes sense. I mean, Facebook. I mean, when you're talking about server farms and the amount of data that they have to manage, they have to do some innovation to make what they do work.
Yeah,
and it's great that they are sharing it with the community. So
I've
anyway.
seen Professor showed us a couple of videos about Facebook server farms. Those are huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you imagine the amount of new data generated just on Facebook every day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of it's really worthless.
Oh, and that's another. Yeah, you're right. Most of that data is worthless. It's worthless.
Every piece of data is worth something to someone.
Yeah, I was about to say it's worthless in terms of educational value, but it's worth something to Facebook because they can sell that data. They can use that data to serve you ads. Obviously it's the ad network on Facebook that drives revenue. So
Yeah.
anything you post on there is worth something to Facebook because they can serve you better ads by knowing you better because of what you post.
Well, every Google search is worth something to Google.
Oh, absolutely. It tells them more about you so they can serve you better ads. Yep.
Yep. Like I remember I looked for a laptop on one of the sites, and I typed in laptops and the site name.
Mm-hmm.
For 2 weeks, I got every ad was from that specific site about laptops.
Yeah. And what's weird with me, I'll search for something on my desktop, in Google, and I'll get an ad about it on my phone, on my Android phone later. It's like, okay. I guess because it's the Wi-Fi network here, it's all. But still, it's strange, when I'm getting ads on a different device that I didn't even do that search on. So.
It can connect you either through account or through usage patterns.
Yeah. In the chat, Mr. Go F Yourself, I guess he changed his name back. Used to be just Mr. GFY. Now he wanted to just go ahead and spell it out. He dual boots Parrot and Shark. So Parrot, of course, is another penetration testing distro. Since we were talking about Kali Linux, yeah, Parrot is another one. So it's pretty popular.
I heard
Probably somewhere on one of the hard drives.
I heard Shark Linux is a really good distro.
It is. It's not bad. I've looked on it. I've looked at it on the channel at least once. I think twice. I've taken a look at it because they've had a couple of releases since I've been doing the YouTube channel. Yeah, it's not bad. Debian based, good stuff. Matter of fact, the first time I'd ever really heard of it was Mr. GFY. When I first started the channel, he bugged the hell out of me about, you got to take a look at Shark. You got to take a look at Shark. If you guys know GFY, he's first on the comments all the time. I kept, well, you review all these distros, you haven't taken a look at Shark. So I finally reviewed it for him. And I've taken a look at it a couple of times, I think, on the channel.
Hold on,
And
just
it
a
is
minute.
it is a solid distro. So
I'm sure it does wonders for your AdSense having that commenter there.
well,
Engagement is always good.
actually what we say actually is what matters, not necessarily what anybody leaves in the YouTube chat or in the comments on the page.
Yeah.
Plus I don't have time to moderate, especially like the comments people leave, even the troll comments, whatever, I just leave them. But YouTube, their algorithms they know exactly every word we say on camera. Now, if I say something kind of inappropriate, not necessarily just a curse word or anything, they really don't care about language. It's the context. You know, if we start talking about, I don't know, terrorism, or somebody makes some kind of racial comment, or some, YouTube algorithms will be tripped, and I'll be demonetized, and then I'll have to request a human to review it, and then they, will take a look at it and see if it really is appropriate for their advertisers, because
actually curse words don't trigger it right away. It must be a bunch of them in a short period of time, because algorithms made it way, because that's actually a natural speech pattern of people to sometimes use curse words.
Yeah, it's more of, like I said, a lot of hate speech, anything violent in nature.
Slurs are really big thing.
You can curse. I mean, I discourage cursing here in these video chats, because we do have kids watch. It's kind of become sort of a family-friendly channel. I know people watch it with their kids, so I watch my language, so I ask everybody else to watch theirs. But you're right, YouTube doesn't really care. I mean, you look at some of the most popular YouTube channels there are, some of these guys, they swear like a truck driver, and all their videos are monetized. So
yeah. I actually read really think about YouTube and advertising and everything like that, but that sooner or later we won't be able to use YouTube as it is. If my good old European Union passes Article 13, they don't use a curse word in between. Because the way it is worded right now, it will cause Google to have to drop all user uploaded stuff, so they don't have any chance of getting copyright infringement, because Article 13 drops every problem about anything related to copyright onto the platform creator, platform host, and not the person who makes the content. So, for example, if you did something that is copyrighted, you wouldn't be liable. Google would be.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And that's why if that article passes, we're going to have a problem. And YouTube and many other sites might actually stop supporting user-uploaded content.
Well, technically, legally, Google is responsible, like, for whatever I put on here. If I post something that is copyrighted material, ultimately, whose servers is that video hosted on?
Yeah,
not hosted on anything I own. It's on Google's machines. So.
Actually, because of what's called, you have to, like, when you upload the video, you accept the term that you are liable for any copyright infringement. It's automatic. Yep. But if Article 13 passes, it overrides that. Even if you would sign it by hand, it wouldn't care. It's the content, it's the host of the platform that is liable, and not the creator. And they have actually a guideline how to fix that problem, so no one is liable. Companies who host such thing would have to create a bot or have so many humans to crawl through all the videos and check the content if it is copyright infringement.
Well, you can't have that many humans review, especially something like YouTube. But YouTube they could probably do it with enough bots. I bet they could send out. I bet they could spider all those.
Probably if they put the black box, what is called Project DeepMind, into the overdrive and actually did some really did some better stuff, they could actually use it for that as well, not just Google Ads and notification and comments.
The bigger problem would be companies that are quite a bit smaller than Google. You know,
Yeah.
how would they handle it? They wouldn't be able to handle it because they just wouldn't have the kind of technology to.
Yeah, and another problem people point out it's Twitch.
Yeah.
But it's live.
Twitch. Yes.
Actually, on YouTube, that's the problem too, because you cannot really do stuff like that with live, because you can't really censor live, but it has already been seen. So that's gonna be a big problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember one commenter, he pointed out that even though they, like for example, the earlier data protection directive of the EU, that even though Twitter and Google obviously fought hard to keep it out, in a way it kind of helps them because there's extra bureaucracy that it sort of blocks any future, it sort of kills any future competitors from arising, and this could very well help them.
But I have been into the whole GDPR bureaucracy. It's not that bad. Maybe earlier ones were the early versions, but GDPR bureaucracy is quite easy. You have to comply with certain stuff, make certain exceptions in your code, like you have to allow people to actually delete data about themselves and not just say it's deleted and that's it. It's not, you have to comply with certain stuff, but at the end it's just a couple of statements in code and nothing else. As far as I have seen on the whole GDPR problem. And yeah, you have to send an email about how you're collecting data, but that's like automated bot that takes like 5 minutes to work.
Yeah, and so some of this
hard.
Yeah, some of these new laws and regulations, they'll get worked out. They'll realize what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. Personally, I think GDPR is good, but everything else European Union does right now, it's really bad.
Yeah, the GDPR thing. Yeah, I really didn't care about that.
Yeah, you're American.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't even matter. I mean, I got a bunch of emails. People, you know, all these companies have to email you telling you about the new rule changes or whatever.
Yeah.
The only thing was, yeah, my inbox was full. Other than that, nothing changed. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, just looking a little bit at the latest Linux news over the last couple of days, and of course, obviously, the big news today is all about Red Hat. So, if there's anything else I've missed the last few days, of course, Linus is back.
Yay!
I knew he wouldn't be gone for long.
Yeah, you know what? That was a very short vacation too. I mean, I assumed he would, you know, take a few months off. You know, I mean, you've been working on something 30 years, and he seemed like he was burnt out. To only take a month. You know, that's not enough time to recharge if that's what he needed to do. So, oh well.
He's back, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, a month would be a lifetime for me.
Yeah. Well, I guess it depends on how long, you know, it's been since a vacation. You know, some folks, you know, when you work, you know, some of your vacation time rolls over. So if you don't take a vacation for, you know, 5 years or 10 years, you know, you may have, you know, several weeks or even several months of vacation time saved up. I've always thought that was a little weird. I mean, who would want to take like a 3-month vacation? That's when you come back to your job, you know. Like, do you even know who all's working there? Like, so many faces have changed, and Also checking out the latest score. My Saints are playing this evening too. So, the New Orleans Saints. So, looks like they're about to score. I might catch the second half here. I can't be up too late tonight. Like I said, we're probably only going to do about an hour stream tonight. So probably here in about 25 minutes or so, I'll kill the stream. This today was just a bad day to do one of these. I wanted to do one because we'd been doing one every Sunday, but having to work all day and the hours that I had to work, I would either had to do like an hour stream like really early in the morning or do like an hour stream in the evening here U.S. time. So I decided if I was going to have to change things up anyway, it'd be better to do it in the evening, maybe get a different crowd joining both on camera and in the YouTube chat.
That we didn't really get for you. You got the same old me.
Yeah. Well, you know, if I do several of these in a row in the evening my time, people in Europe will complain about it. Then if I do them in the morning my time, several of them in a row, you know, people in Australia or people, hey man, can you go back to your regular, you know, so it's good to switch them up every now and then. I used to switch it up every now and then. I didn't keep any regular schedule. You never knew what day I was going to stream, what time I was going to stream, and that was nice because it kept people guessing. Like if there was anybody you didn't want to join the stream, you know, they didn't know when or where to find me. I haven't had any of those kinds of problems. I've heard from other YouTubers, though, like that could be a problem sometimes. You get that crazy person that joins your stream. I've never had to give anybody the boot, either on camera or in the YouTube chat. I've never actually had to ban, you know, every now and then you get like the random spammer, but that's not even a real account.
At least you're not, what are those, against like people against Christian streamers who disprove Christianity. Those get a lot of crazy people.
Yeah.
Well,
No.
anything with politics or religion, it's just a magnet for trouble.
Yeah.
There's a super chat, by the way.
Yep, yeah, Mr. F. Question for your guests. Thoughts on the FSF approved distros? The FSF is the Free Software Foundation. So that is, we're talking about Richard Stallman, the free software movement. There are about 10 or 12 Linux distros out there that are officially endorsed by the Free Software Foundation and Richard Stallman. They are completely free, as in there is no proprietary software in that distro at all. You can't get your proprietary graphics drivers and Wi-Fi drivers, none of that. All their repos have nothing but free software. So something like Debian, which has a non-free repo, even though it's not activated by default, you have to activate it. Debian, no. Debian doesn't make the list. Fedora also would not make the list because of that. Ubuntu, because it allows you to install all those multimedia codecs and all, you know, Ubuntu can't make the list, but there are about a dozen or so distros that make the list. Most of them, actually all of them, all 12, are distros the general public has never heard of. They're not very popular for obvious reasons. Can you imagine putting one of these on a laptop? You have to be careful because you got to make sure your laptop does not need a proprietary Wi-Fi driver in particular. If it does, you're screwed. So the most popular FSF distros, just off the top of my head, Triskel is pretty popular. It is a Ubuntu-based distro that is, of course, completely free. Parabola is one that I've been hearing a little bit about in recent years. Parabola is Arch-based. So, but other than that, like the other 10 or so of those distros are really obscure distros nobody has heard of. Many of them haven't seen updates in a long time. Good in theory. I mean, I like that there's these 100% free operating systems out there, but for 99.9% of the population, even the Linux population, for 99.9% of us, we would not be happy on those distros, right? Especially if your machine, you know, if you, like I have an NVIDIA card. I mean, I guess I could run the Nouveau drivers, but for what I do, I mean, this channel would be terrible
Come on,
for
Lenovo
remote.
drivers are useful, especially on the new cards.
Right. And again, laptops. Laptops would be the real big one. If your Wi-Fi driver for that laptop is not open sourced, you're never getting Wi-Fi on that laptop. So, unless you go out and get the proprietary driver yourself. But if you're going to do that, why are you running an FSF approved distro? You should have just installed, Debian or Arch or whatever. So,
No driver front. Actually, my 1050 Ti doesn't actually work. No driver on Ubuntu 18.10 doesn't actually even work.
really? Now,
It's just black screen. That's it. I have to actually mode set, table it via mode set, and use Intel graphics card, the integrated one, and install NVIDIA driver. Otherwise, it just doesn't work.
Yeah. And Steve's very own was here on camera. He had to leave, so he left a private chat. Him and his son are going to dinner. All right, well, enjoy dinner.
Enjoy.
I actually still need to. I haven't had dinner myself. I'm gonna eat when we get done here. Probably just cook some ramen noodles or something easy. Something microwavable.
That Arch one actually interests me a little bit because I don't know if you've seen my latest video, but I have a new Arch layout for my YouTube production computer. It's really good. That Arch system Carabula is very interesting. I may check that one out.
Yeah, and I've never looked at that one. I should actually look at it on the channel sometime, because if it's Arch based but there's nothing but free software, I'm assuming the AUR is disconnected, obviously, because there's a lot of
AUR can be disconnected only if it's actually the build stuff that is out of it, because AUR is basically a Git repository.
Right. It's all community based. I'm just wondering how they handle that, because anybody should be able to just add the AUR to Parabola and get all the non-free stuff they want.
Only if they disable package build, but I believe package build is actually a part of what you pull down, so there is no way actually to disable it, because it's basically a Git server that has maybe one background program, which is probably really easy to pull from Arch out, even if that actually is a part of Arch, if it's not just a program inside that Git file, Git repository.
And I'm just pondering how Stallman and the Free Software Foundation see something like Parabola. If you can get the AUR, like, how is that different than Debian having a non-free repo that's not installed not activated by default? You'd have to add it. Or Fedora is the same way. That's why they don't have either Debian or Fedora as a FSF distro.
Because it is endorsed by people who create it.
Yeah.
But it's created by them and run by them, so they endorse it in the mindset of Rachel Stallman, who I think is a cook anyway.
Yeah. And they actually have a page. I haven't looked at it in a long time, but if you go to, I think, the GNU website or the FSF website, they have a listing where they list a lot of your major distros: Debian, Fedora, Ubuntu, SUSE, and Richard Stallman has a little write-up explaining why those distros don't make the approved list. He'll tell you exactly what's in those distros that he disapproves of as far as being free. So, yeah, Mr. GFY, yeah, seems like a good challenge video. Can you add AUR on Parabola? I wouldn't be surprised if they had it in such a way that it would be a pain to add.
I'm sure it's possible to add the AUR to any Arch distro that does not even have access to it.
Like Triskel is Ubuntu based. I mentioned Triskel is a FSF approved distro. I'm certain you probably can't add PPAs to Triskel. I mean,
100% sure. It's just a file edit, nothing else.
Yeah. Because why do most people add PPAs in Ubuntu? Is to get things like Chrome and all the proprietary stuff. You're not adding free software with a PPA, because all the free software is probably in your repo anyway, the main repo. So
Yeah.
it's always the closed source stuff.
Actually, I've tinkered with some. Actually, made my own repo and a mirror for myself. And in reality, repos and mirrors are just HTTP servers who give out the data with one file in front of it, nothing else.
Yeah.
All else is just a HTTP stream, files. It's basically a website that gives you access to a specific file instead of a website. And it's probably impossible to block all such websites.
And we got some more data collecting comments in the chat. John Patterson, who really knows what Microsoft and Google are collecting about you? No one. Microsoft is never going to disclose what exactly Windows 10 is collecting. Google is never going to tell anybody what they're really collecting as far as with their search engine and Gmail, your Android phone. It's not in their interest to tell the public. So,
in my opinion, both companies really do need to be transparent about what they're doing. I mean, we as humans,
nobody cares. Ricky, nobody cares. I mean, you and me, Big Pod, Christopher, we probably care because we're kind of geeks. But I promise you, if Google came out tomorrow and said we know every little dirty secret, everything you've ever done, most people are still gonna use all their services, all their products.
You know who wouldn't use it? The people who didn't use it before.
Right. Yeah.
Probably yes. And people who are computer inclined will still use it because it's convenient.
Right. Yeah. A lot of people. I mean, the people that aren't already using it, they're already not using it based on principle. So I mean, nothing's going to change for those people, and nothing's also going to change for the people that don't care. So in the end, it probably wouldn't change much. Think about Facebook. Facebook should have been killed from all the scandals, but nobody cared. Nobody cared. Yeah. So Equifax. Yeah.
We had a mass exodus from Facebook, and guess what?
Yeah.
Maybe a % change.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, a lot of people did quit Facebook, but it was such a small percentage. I mean, people like me, so what? I did. But like your normal people, your next door neighbor,
for such.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I doubt Facebook even misses somebody like me, because I wasn't buying anything they were selling, so it's not like they lost anything with me. So in the chat, just really quickly, Alan Pope talking about the FSF approved distros. They're small distros. I mentioned they're really obscure. Most people have never even heard of them. They don't have much of a user base. They don't have much of a development team, most of them. So he's mentioning there could be problems with security updates in those distros. So that is something to consider really with small Linux distros in general, but especially those FSF distros. I mean, you're talking about a really niche market that they're catering to. So, all right, we got somebody new here in the chat. Wraith, how's it going? He's adjusting his camera. He may not can hear us yet. And just going over the chat.
Not bad. How about yourself?
Oh, yeah. I'm doing just great this evening. Just got home not too long ago. I just
managed to catch before I was getting Zoom installed. I caught the end of your little speech about AUR and stuff.
Yep. Yeah. And that was particular to the FSF Free Software Foundation distros we were talking about. Parabola is one of those distros, and it just is strange if they have the AUR activated or not. I seriously doubt they do.
Doubt it.
Because I know Stallman would not like that. He wouldn't be a fan of anything that allows you to get proprietary software. So AUR, PPAs, those kinds of things, completely out the window. Probably no, I don't know, snaps, Flatpak, app image. You know,
I've just started looking into snaps actually, because from the last video you did actually.
Yep. Yeah, you checked out that little infographic. That was neat. I mean, I know
That
Canonical put that infographic out, and people are, it's propaganda. It's just a company, trying to sell you something. Well, I mean, they created the snap package format, but snaps are on every distro.
It's nice to see as well that percentage when you were going on about it a while ago, how they're dropping like 32-bit support, i686 and everything, and people. It just shows there how many people now are using 64-bit systems.
Well, also you have to understand how distros cater to certain groups of people. Ubuntu, especially mainline Ubuntu, is not trying to resurrect that 15-year-old laptop you got. That is not what mainline Ubuntu with GNOME is for. So of course, nobody needs a 60 or a 32-bit ISO for mainline Ubuntu.
No, you've got your niche. You've got your niche OSs for that.
I mean, as long as you got Antics and Puppy and Tiny Core, things like that. You people that have 32-bit processors still, you're good, and those distros are always going to cater to that crowd. That's who they're catering to. They're trying to fill that need. They're not
exactly.
Antics is not built for those people running like the latest and greatest hardware. I mean, you can do it, but that's not what they're building that distro for. So
exactly.
Not every distro needs to have a 32-bit image.
No.
And I know it angers some people when I say that because, everybody's dropping 32-bit support and I still have, there's still hardware out there that can run it, yes, but there will always be distros out there that you can run. Just because Ubuntu and Fedora want to drop it doesn't mean you won't have other things that...
What I still understand is who uses for what 32-bit processor, because... Well, you only can have 4 gigs of RAM. What can you do with that? Maybe a light browsing.
Actually, with Linux, though, you can use more than 4 gig of RAM on a 32-bit Linux system. There is ways to do that.
Yeah, with swap, but addressable RAM, no, it's impossible. That's how 32-bit works.
Yeah.
Listen to 4 hours of talking about processor architecture.
Yeah.
2 hours I was thinking I'm going to throw my laptop at the professor's head.
That's what it was. That's what I was thinking of. PAE. They used to have Ubuntu.
Yeah. And that's the good thing about having now these metrics that you can opt in during the install, so they know about these people's machines. Like the fact that almost everybody chooses to update during the install. That's useful information, if you're Ubuntu. It's like, okay, that's a good idea that's there, and it's ticked on by default. So
going on about data collection and stuff, Valve do the same thing as well.
Yeah.
And they collect their information actually can be very useful to a lot of developers in general.
The monthly report is really, really, really insightful.
Yeah. It's nice, you can see it also allows, and for people who are looking to build systems as well, because they can look at that list and say, well, this processor's the top, this graphics card's the top, so they must be decent ones,
right?
For example.
And if you're use that report for what to target their games.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a software developer, you're developing, Linux distro or free and open source software, games on Valve. I mean, it's nice to know that people are running, most people now have 4 gigs of RAM at least, right? Probably most machines now come with 8 gigs of RAM, but you need hard data on this, so now you have something to back it up instead of you're just guessing what most people have,
Yeah. Speaking of Steam and stuff, the group who were doing the database have now actually officialized their name and stuff by the look of it. They now have their own actual website set up, ProtonDB.
Okay,
which
cool.
Is nice. Yeah, where's that? That's on protondb.com, and they've got all the information on there now about all the support for the games and everything. Because that was on, I can't remember the website now. It was like NCPR or something like that.
Yeah.
Steam report something.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a couple of different Steam report pages. Just quickly, I'm going to catch up in the chat here. Jansu said, "This is one of the reasons why I love Linux. Popey is here in the middle of the night. Approachable people, these nerds." Yeah, all of these nerds are very approachable. We're Kevin in the chat was saying, I guess I need to make a video how to trash your Linux machine. I actually did a live stream one time where I cloned a bunch of VMs. I think I did a bunch of VMs, clones of Ubuntu, and I broke them in various ways, running terminal commands that you shouldn't. If you watch that particular video, do not run any of those commands, but I trashed a bunch of VMs. I
assume one of them was DD in devnull.
Yeah, DD appeared a couple of times. Obviously, rm-rf, don't ever run that command for anything, not just on root. You should. That's bad practice to remove recursively any directory, because all it takes is you messing up. So, the DD command,
you got rf start in a root directory.
Yeah.
And the thing is, as you say, there is no "are you sure?"
Right. Well, Ubuntu was interesting, because I didn't realize this when I picked that as the distro to test these on. Ubuntu does have some safeguards for some of the common terminal commands to trash your system, like rm-rf root did not work. It gave me a warning basically saying this command will hose your system. If you really want to run it, here's a much longer and convoluted way to type that command, and if you type that, then we'll do it. And then I typed that.
One that was blocked on Ubuntu is the fork bomb as well.
The fork bomb. I tried that one. I can't remember if it worked or not. Actually, Arch with Pac-Man also is similar with apt and Ubuntu. Some of the ones in Arch, if you ever want to try to trash an Arch system, sometimes Pac-Man will say, "Are you sure?" or you shouldn't do this. But if you really want to, type your password one more time.
Yeah, and actually, I think that's a good thing. So
yeah,
because it's bringing people, the even command line closer to people, because it's actually protecting them from failure. Mm-hmm. We just need to remove this destroyer from Linux, and then we'll be fine.
Yeah. The DD command is really interesting, because you can hose your system in so many nice ways with DD. DD has some colorful nicknames. I mean, most people call it the disk destroyer. I've heard people nickname it the data deleter. There's like a dozen funny nicknames for DD. I don't think DD actually stands for anything. Could be wrong about that. I have to pull up the man page, but I don't think it actually stands for. It doesn't stand for disk destroyer. I know that. So.
Yeah, I'm curious now.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I don't think that tool was originally written to format drives like most people use it for. So.
I think it was probably written to make USB or like USB keys.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hey Derek, how you doing?
Hey Ben.
Put data on them like permanently.
Yeah.
Like it's.
All it says. I found one thing, but that came up on Static Exchange that said it was inspired by the DD data definition statement. That's about it.
Data definition. Maybe that's what it originally stood for. Yeah, in the chat, Peter says he uses the DD command. No problem so far. Yeah. The only problem with DD, if you're using it to like format drives, if you mistype one letter, like if it's SDA1 and you type SDA2 or SDB instead of SDA, you can format the drive you didn't mean to format. And
you can format your main drive.
Right. So that's where people get into trouble with it. Like I have 7 drives in this machine I've got. So you can imagine how I could accidentally format the wrong drive. Just
I've done that. I F'd it. Thankfully, I only F-disked it, so it only wiped the partition table. So that was easy to restore. But I F-disked an archive drive that was 5 years old.
Wow!
And it was like, I was screaming. I was absolutely screaming. But luckily, as I say, because I only wiped the partition table, it was easy to restore.
Yeah, I actually one time deleted important data from server.
Oh God!
Thankfully, I had good backups, and even if that didn't work, I could get access to server and hard drive. So I had chances of restoring it, but it would take a lot of hours.
Yeah. I think I've told this story a few months ago, but I had a guy contact me. He decided he was going to create a new directory in his home directory, and he named the directory the tilde character, which is which is an alias, of course, in the Bash shell for your home directory.
Yeah.
And he realized he messed up. He should not have created a directory called tilde. So you know what he did? He rm-rf tilde. So his entire home directory. So
That guy is awesome.
and then he contacted me and said, "What can I do now?" And my response was, "Do you have a backup?"
The only good response.
Reminds me of the old virtual directories that you used to have and stuff. If you erased them, you could screw up your whole system.
Yeah.
Derek, you're gonna think I'm insane, but guess what GUI I'm running?
No
Windows
idea,
10.
No,
Now,
sir.
if I know you're on the Mac OS, I already know. Right.
No, sir.
You didn't buy a Chromebook, did you?
No, you're gonna laugh, but you're gonna love this. Take a look.
Oh, we got a screen share. Okay, go ahead. Oh, you're on.
You're. Oh, why did it go dark?
Yeah, it's not sharing. It wanted to share there for a second. I saw a background.
Shoot.
Now
my screen's gone dark. What the hell?
Awesome.
I saw a green wallpaper for a split second then.
Yeah, the green wallpaper looked really good, Ben. I like that green wallpaper.
Too.
Wow.
But
yeah.
it's totally dark. How did this happen?
It probably doesn't like the screen share. You know, you're using a really old desktop environment.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it to stop, but I can't.
You can't get out of the screen share? I can kill it.
Yeah,
I'm
kill
sure.
it.
I'm sure it gives as the host here. I'm sure I can get out of this.
Yeah, if you don't mind, because my desktop totally died.
Let's see. I'm not sure if I can.
Oh shit.
Oh,
Yeah.
where is it full screen?
At worst
No,
case, I'll have to rejoin the call. One of the two. Oh god.
Yeah, you might have to leave and rejoin. I'm not sure. I'm sure there's a way for me to take control of this and quit sharing your screen, but
Yeah, let me just.
yeah, just hop off and hop back on. Yeah.
Let me just log into a console here and try kill all.
But I have changed the view on screen, so the YouTube viewers are not just looking at your black screen. They at least can see our faces. Our faces are now on top of the black screen. So.
Oh, Ben. I've just seen that in chat.
Well, this is why we can't have nice things in Linux, just because.
Yes. Something somewhere is going to screw up.
You can set, if you go into view options, you can set side-by-side mode and just slide our faces over and kind of
There
like
you go. Now we have the black screen on the left side.
Oh, dear. Never a dull moment, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, GNOME
Ben?
did not like that.
Ben, did you notice that there were two of you in the chat there for a second?
I don't know why.
Yeah, that was weird. There were two of you side by side, and they weren't synced up. No, it was strange. It was like your alternate reality Ben, and then there was real Ben.
Penalty, that's what it was.
Oh god. Anyway, so
It
yeah,
was
GNOME
like something
too
out
did
of
not
Star
like
Trek.
that. Yeah, GNOME did not like me doing that at all.
Yeah. GNOME 2. Why would you run GNOME 2 when Mate, the fork of GNOME 2, is out there?
Well, because it didn't. Even though this is a Kaby Lake laptop, it did not go very well.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so this started out with XFCE, but I just couldn't find a proper way to theme it the way I wanted it. So I said, oh, what the heck, I'm doing an old GNOME. And ironically, it themed out perfectly, whereas every other desktop I've tried did not theme out the way I needed it to.
Since some of you guys are distro hoppers like me, we're being asked in the chat, Kevin, Is too much distro hopping bad for a laptop? What you're really concerned about is it bad for your drives, your SSDs, or your hard drives? Most SSDs now can be overwritten thousands of times before they see any kind of degradation. So I don't think you can distro hop enough to trash a SSD. I haven't seen it on any of mine. I don't know if Ben or Climby or anybody is.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
Also,
because
I haven't seen it either, and I'm on
Yeah.
a hybrid drive.
You've got the trim functionality as well on SSDs, so
right.
Yeah,
that usually helps with wiping them.
So the consensus, Kevin, is go ahead and hop. So,
yeah. If you want to, that is. I mean, it
because I've got some.
Really do anything really.
I mean, I'm sure some of us have got drives that we formatted dozens, maybe even hundreds of times.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
As I say, I've got a dedicated testing drive. It's a 250 gig standard hard drive that I have just for testing distros on.
Yeah.
Because it's always nice to test it on bare metal.
Yeah, it's
And SSDs are getting cheaper and cheaper, so you can get like a
Yes.
128 for about $28-30, and
I was going to
Well,
say
let
the
me tell
price of the Samsung ones have dropped a lot.
Yes,
Yeah,
Samsung
of
ones
course.
are really cheap.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
for
that's
hopping
also,
purposes. Yeah, just for hopping purposes. I've got my 256 gig SSDs. I've got 6 of them in this 6-bay IC dock, and I want to say I paid $45, like under $50 a piece for these 256 gig SSDs. They're Silicon Power was the brand. Get pretty good reviews on Amazon. It's like a 5-star. I mean, thousands of people have reviewed it. So I don't know. I mean, if you're not, I wouldn't run my main operating system on these, but just for storage or for distro hopping, yeah, there's no reason not to buy those cheap SSDs. What are you out if they fail? I'm out $40. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, the
So what
yeah.
distro are you on, Ben? You said GNOME 2, but
calculate.
Calculate Linux with GNOME 2. That is the strangest combination.
Yeah,
I know Calculate comes with, isn't there like main edition XFCE? That's another thing. Why
No,
wouldn't you just do
KDE.
KDE is the main?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but mine started with XFCE, and then, I was gonna keep the XFCE as a side thing, but GNOME wouldn't let me do that.
Yeah. Well, I hate to hear that.
There
Ben.
was conflicts. Yeah,
Mm.
but yeah, I'm not having any regrets. But if updates come out, I'm gonna be like, oh god.
Yeah.
But
Well,
hey,
guys.
once that happens, I'll just jump back to XFCE, I guess.
Right.
Well, guys, I'm gonna have to go ahead and kill the stream here. So I got to go get my dinner and eventually get to bed. I've got to work all day tomorrow. I was just happy to find a little time to do this chat here today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really
Well,
didn't want to take the Sunday off. So I know a lot of folks probably were looking for me this morning, but I tried to do the reminder, set a reminder in YouTube. Hopefully all you guys got notifications. I know sometimes the notification system in YouTube is not good. So.
Yeah.
All right.
But before we go, let's get a last word from everybody. Big Pod, you got a last word for us?
Yeah, this time it's a bit of a shameless plug.
Yeah, go ahead.
In a couple of days, probably tomorrow, I will be putting my first Linux video.
No, cool. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Whoa, what
And-
That was
So,
bad.
That.
yeah, I'll be looking for it. So,
All right.
all right, Christopher, you got any last words for us?
Interesting fact about DD, data definition. The reason it has strange syntax is because it inherited the syntax from IBM's old job control system. So it all comes back to IBM. Started there. We started there, and now we returned there. Poetic, isn't it?
Yes, it's all a
Anyway,
circle.
good
It's just a
for
circle.
it.
All right, thanks, Christopher. Ricky, you got any last words for us?
Yes, I do. Thank you for letting me come. It was a pleasure being here.
All right, thanks, Ricky. Wraith, you got anything for us?
As I say, I'm pretty much the same as Ricky. Thanks for having us here, and thanks everyone for watching.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons why I really didn't want to not have one of these, even if it's got to be kind of abbreviated. Is these are always fun. We always have interesting discussions, and it's just a nice way to relax. You know, I always enjoy these chats. So
Yeah.
Climby, you got anything? Yep. Yeah, go ahead, Christopher.
Oh, I downloaded. You were talking about the what do you call those? The GNU approved distros.
Yeah, that
so I'm
Free
gonna
Software
try
Foundation.
The Gix one and probably Trisco, and I'll if you have one another time, I might report back and see how it goes.
Okay, yeah, I usually do these every Sunday. Most of the time in the mornings. Here lately, we've had to do them in the evenings. But yeah, look for me next Sunday. I'll send out some kind of reminder, though, if you're subscribed to the channel. So. All right, Climby, last words?
Enjoyed as always. I only got to catch about the last 10 minutes because I actually just got back from a Carolina Hurricanes hockey game.
Awesome.
And,
Oh, nice.
yeah, people there in Raleigh have been talking about IBM buying Red Hat. That's a big thing.
Really?
So,
at the hockey game? That's strange.
yeah, because Red Hat's main headquarters is in Raleigh. So, yeah.
Very cool. So, you're a big hockey fan, or you just like to go for the fights and the beer?
I love hockey.
You do? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, then of course I got to get my last word in before we go. The show is made possible by Ansem, Carlos, Chris, David, Leor, Rob, Tony. Also brought to you by all those fine ladies and gentlemen. Without them, none of this would be possible. If you enjoy this video, consider supporting the channel, DistroTube, over on Patreon. All right, guys. I'm going to shut it down. Peace, guys.
Later.
Later.
Right,
Yeah.